Okay, welcome to Stampscaping 101. This is a scene that... It's a scene, but it's more of an experiment. Playing around with some black paper, cardstock, and just applying some imagery. Well, it's one stamp, the pine here, with kind of white pigment ink, and just taking it from there. I really don't plan out. I don't plan out most of what I'm doing on these videos, as you can imagine from if you've watched them before. But this was just nothing more than sitting down at my desk here with nothing in mind, but I had this piece of that black cardstock sitting there, and I thought, okay, I'm going to play around with that a little bit more. All right, piece. It's a little bit crooked, but I don't care. It's an experiment, and I think it looks just fine. Anyway, yeah, this is a real experiment. Everything that I do is kind of an experiment, the way I see it, but this one I just wanted to play around with some reversed imagery, meaning light imagery on dark paper, and, you know, one thing led to another, just in terms of playing around with things on here. I played around with a little bit of the Dr. Martens bleed-proof white, applied with a paintbrush on the trees, just to give the trees a little bit more dimension. They looked okay, I guess, stamped out just on their own. Actually, no, I don't know, to me they look a little bit busy, alright? And it's because they are. So, in the future I probably wouldn't apply so much, to the trees if I were to do this again. Played around with some of that bleed-proof white up here in the sky in the form of some snowfall. And so to some of these little dots I applied some pigment ink at the end to make them into stars as opposed to snowfall. And that little transfer there is just a little rub-on star. It's a white star rub-on transfer that I've had for years and years and years on a whole big sheet of them. If you watch this video, you'll see what it is. But anyways, this is, like I said, it's a total experiment, and I would really encourage everyone to kind of play around with some different media. Look at, a lot of you have more media than I do, for sure. And, just to, I don't know, take a different approach to, I don't know, maybe some of the imagery that you're already familiar with, using it in a different way, giving it a different look, and playing around some new techniques and whatnot. And you don't even need to have seen it in, a demonstration or a card or something like that, but just think of different ways, that it might be used. On something like this, I think I mentioned in the video, unless I was just thinking it, some different kind of iridescent inks, in here might be kind of interesting on the trees. You can certainly do embossed types of looks on here. You can stamp out your trees in some kind of iridescent color as well on black cardstock, and I think that would look really cool too. I need to look into that and play around, but I don't know, some different looks. Can you imagine, I don't know, I need to look into some iridescent, slightly translucent or opaque inks, but can you imagine some kind of northern sky up here? I don't know, probably rubbed on somehow, sponged in here, probably with like a cosmetic sponge or something like that up in the sky. Up there would look really interesting against a black background, so I don't know, playing around and experimenting with these types of different looks and whatnot, as you're doing it, other techniques come to mind, I think. It opens up the floodgates for kind of a spirit of, I don't know, experimentation, exploration, whatever you might call it, when you're doing things like that. Not just in the media that you're working in or the techniques that you're working in, but just kind of thinking about things in terms of that approach, in terms of using your stamps in a different way. So, I don't know, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about all kinds of different possibilities, you know, beyond what we're being used on here. So, I think some of their, you know, future plans for black paper and reversed out marks might open up, I don't know, some new possibilities and new looks that will be interesting, and that's always a good thing, because I fully believe in kind of expanding the range of your stamps and how they can be used, you know, just in terms of getting the most out of them, playing around with them in different ways. So, anyways, if you choose to watch the video, I hope you like it. And this scene for me was, or this card was certainly fun to work on. It was all just completely reverse marks, you know, when you're talking about doing light on dark like that. So, kind of similar to the spirit of doing the scratching portion of stamp board scenes, you know, being able to scratch back into it and leave a light mark, but this is a positive application of light on dark. So kind of, I don't know, what I'm getting is it feels like you're using almost a different part of your brain or hemisphere when you're working that way too. So it's kind of fun in that too. I don't know, maybe that leads to that kind of more experimental mindset too. So hope you enjoy the video. And I was going to say, I hope you enjoy the scene. The scene's a little bit busy for me, but I don't know, it sure was fun. Okay, I'm going to try to play around with something here. I had this piece of black cardstock on my desk, and I've thought about using some kind of some more white on black types of applications of the stamps, and I don't know, I haven't really gotten around to doing a lot of experimentation, but as you can see in my latest videos, I seem to be kind of in this period of, I don't know, kind of mild experimentation of late. I just feel like playing around with some new looks and trying some things that have been on my mind for a while. This is a Colorbox Frost White, and I'm just inking up the pine tree stamp. And I want to see what kind of impression this makes on this black cardstock. The black cardstock is a Nina Astro Bright. Astro Bright's cover meaning it's kind of thick. And let me see, it's called Eclipse Black. Kind of a nice name, I think. It's a pretty smooth paper. I really like it. I don't know. Like you all, probably like papers, you know, anyone that's into paper crafts, you know, I think we all love paper. Kind of playing around with it. That looks kind of interesting. Go for another impression. I guess I can kind of ink this up less and maybe it would give me a kind of a more gray impression. But I haven't played around with this a lot. Not like I have, you know, dye-based inks, of course. So, I don't know. I haven't really played around with kind of translucent and opaque applications of various inks on kind of different types of papers, but I don't know, that's what kind of experimentation is about, right? I guess you can say in some ways. all of my scenes, can be looked at as an experiment. I like to play around with different compositions and different color schemes. Quite often I'm using or most often I'm using the dye-based inks on glossy paper technique, but even in that media and those constraints, you might say, I'm looking for different looks, different moods, and certainly different compositions, but more so the mood and the lighting are the things that I'm always kind of trying to play around with, and I don't know, I'm always seeking, something with each new scene. Okay. I'm getting some varied looks here, I guess. I guess I have some, I don't know, some of that ink is kind of building up a little bit and puddling up on the edges, giving the kind of the perimeter a little bit more of a kind of a more opaque white impression, which looks kind of interesting, I guess. I like it. Okay, go for one about right here. I don't know if holding this on longer is, I don't know, transferring more of the pigment ink down or not. I have no idea. I think so, because on the second one I kind of stamped it out and lifted it sooner, and that one looks a little bit darker because it's a little bit more translucent, okay, less ink transferred over to the paper on that one. Alright, they say compositions are good in odd numbers, so why don't I add a fifth tree? Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. That one was kind of a quick impression. To me, it looks like that other one that I kind of kept down there a little bit longer. It looks like it's a little bit more forward, I should say. Kind of interesting. But here's the thing. I've done this before at some point in time, so I can guess what it was going to look like. But I wanted to play around with some more of the, I don't know, paint possibilities on this scene in the form of the bleed-proof white Dr. Martens, which you might have seen if you've watched other videos from me. Dr. Martens bleed-proof white is an opaque watercolor white, and I don't know, it seems like it could potentially have an interesting look. I'm going to apply it with a little paintbrush here, fine tipped. This one is a number 2 in terms of its size. And I don't know, I want to give this a little bit of variation in here. I like the variation in the impressions that are happening down here. I don't know, it looks a little bit more frosted to me. And kind of interesting. And I don't know, let's see what I can do. I'm no painter by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll see what I can do. In my, which could be a pretty feeble attempt at something interesting, but in the spirit of experimentation, we'll just I'll just go for it. Might as well. Nothing to lose, right? Okay. I am just trying to get the right consistency here. I want it pretty opaque. And I've used this recently, so I've squirted some water in there to kind of reconstitute that that white paint in there, because it has a tendency of drying off. This is a, I don't know, 25-year-old bottle, and I've used, I don't think, I haven't even used half of this, so. But that being said, you can always just put a little water in there and it'll kind of revive it. Okay, let's see here. Very, very opaque, as you can see, right? It's kind of interesting. See it down here? Here, closer. I'm just trying to give this otherwise very flat impression, fairly flat impression. There was a little bit of variation, like I said, and slightly more opaque, thicker impression of the pine tree, but this will, I'm hoping, add a little bit more dimension to it. And texture, I guess. We'll see. I'm finding that I think I'd like kind of a more, what they call, like, scumbly, to scumble with the brush. It's kind of just a, kind of smash it down a little bit, and kind of a dry brushed application. I'm getting these little tips here from the little dots, perfect little dots, or marks from the brush, but I think kind of a more random look on there might kind of lend itself to kind of a more interesting effect. I'll keep working with this one application of ink on the brush, and I'll kind of use it to more of a it's drier form on here, so it'll be kind of like dry brush scumbling, they call it again. I don't know. It's kind of interesting, I guess. Let me see if I can get a little bit more of a trunk in there. The drier it gets on my brush here, the it seems like it becomes a little bit more translucent, I think. Let's zoom in here a little bit. So I'm kind of going for a little bit of that trunk. That. Okay, then I'll go for some branches. I can feel it. It's really drying on here and kind of getting crusty a little bit. Okay, I can see it now. If I use a little bit more pressure, it kind of broke through that outer dried area. It's a little bit more wet on the inside. I mean, this is not a technique or anything like that. I think, you know, in order to be a technique, you know, it needs a little bit more kind of experimentation. But I don't know. It seems like this has some possibilities. You know, I guess you can use other colors of ink too. Certainly, kind of maybe a green or something, or can you imagine some maybe some iridescent inks, green or whatever, or if you want to make it more of a snowy look, you can do it in blue, you know, light blue or something like that, or an iridescent blue. Or, I mean, you can stamp these trees out in something other than white too, so I don't know. The possibilities endless. I don't know, maybe, but it does seem to have some interesting possibilities with this, maybe. Just a little experiment for me. Which doesn't mean that I think I'm the first one to do this either. I don't know. Could be a very known technique, but just not by me. Okay, I'm getting kind of dry on here. But, and I'm getting, so my little marks look completely different from this side to over here, because the consistency on the brush is very different now. Okay, I think I need some more ink or more paint. Okay. When you ink it up, it's a lot more opaque, for sure. When you, not ink, it's really paint, it's watercolor paint. So kind of doing similar things to this side that I did on the other side to keep it consistent in terms of textures from one side of the scene or card to the next. Okay, just kind of, I guess what I'm doing here is, I don't know, I thought it would be more of a snowy look, which I guess it could be. Maybe I can add some kind of snowy textures, you know, little snowflakes kind of falling throughout the card. Or I thought about doing some kind of a star, kind of constellation type of thing up there. I think that'll, I don't know, it'll be the thing that kind of makes the card or breaks it in terms of the finished piece. But for me, like I said, it's, you know, I'm trying to keep in mind that this is an experiment, so I think that's nice about approaching things as an experiment is it won't kind of paralyze you into not trying something out that that might occur to you, you know, for fear of, you know, so-called ruining something or whatnot. You know, you might as well just try it and go for it. And kind of it's a good way to approach things. You can always learn something more or new. Okay. Let's see. It's kind of interesting. It's looking a little bit, I don't know. I think it looks fairly dimensional. There's all kinds of different whites out there, aren't there? We just use white ink and white paint, you know, for the most part here. Well, that is what we used. Okay, now I'm trying to think if I want to stamp some. It seems like perfect for some kind of quote stamp up here, or just some design. I thought about doing some. I was thinking it would be neat is, you know how I always do stars up in my sky. I thought I'd be doing actual constellations, you know, where they actually connect the dots, you know, and have like a real constellation. That would be kind of cool, I think. And there's that snow falling here. Trying to think if I want to do that. I can also do things with the gel pen. If I want to kind of keep it more in a painterly fashion, not fashion, but painterly spirit, I could just use the brush here. I don't know, that's what my illustration instructor always said. He said you want to kind of stay away from kind of mechanical processes and keep things more in the spirit of being done by hand in terms of artwork. I'm not saying that's what I do or that's what I like. You know, when he said that, I was thinking, I don't know. I like what I did on that piece that he was critiquing. You know, but I know what he was getting at, though. But well, maybe we'll try it on this one because it is so kind of hand done at this point in time. I'm putting some thicker little blotches of that opaque white, bleed-proof white on here, because I think I'm going to go for some kind of a snowy look on here. Okay. You see those little bigger balls of kind of snow, which I think is helping it. There was something kind of too monotonous going on in here. I needed something, you know, bold on these branches, or amongst the branches, okay? Okay, let's look at some snowfall. All right. Okay, that's much better, I guess. Okay, let's see, how do I want to do this? Okay. I don't want this to be kind of, I don't know, so-called realistic. I'm thinking more of like kind of whimsical, playful, kind of Charlie Brown, you know, snowfall kind of happening in here. Well, I don't know how it looks, but it certainly is fun. I'm not talking as much in this video because I don't really have much to say. It's just, you know, I'm looking at this for the first time in terms of a process or look. So I don't have anything kind of like a technique comment or whatever. Seems like that, you know, it'd be good as some kind of word stamp, you know, that's kind of popped out or something like that on here. I think that would be kind of cool. And as I do this, what's going on in my mind is I'm wondering if I should kind of overlay the trees with that, you know, dot. Or should it look like they're more in the background? I guess if this is snowfall, I'll do it. I'll have some of these dots kind of in front of, you know, the trees. Otherwise, they'll, you know, they'll read more as like background stars, I think. So, all right. So doing it right over the trees here. Kind of interesting, I guess. Fun, for sure. Worthy of kind of further experimentation. Yeah, I think so. To try something, kind of experiment around with it further. Right now, kind of in the spirit of that kind of Charlie Brownish look, you know. Why don't I do something? I think it'll kind of lend itself to kind of that whimsical looking spirit of snowfall. I'll just take my gel pen and I'll trail some of these off. Like that. Kind of lending a little bit of movement to some of these. I think this would have been interesting too if I did kind of a comet in the background. That might have been interesting too. Not really in this one, you know, with so much texture already in here. But see, what I'll do is I'll kind of have that wiggle type of thing. Maybe not coming straight down, but like that. You kind of do a few little dots in here, closer together, and then you kind of, you know, spread it out a little bit more, and don't keep it too straight, I don't think. I don't know. I guess it's the designer or someone that likes pattern in many ways. That's kind of fun. Oh, you know what I have? I have something just right for this. I think. Let's see. It's kind of looking a little monotonous right now, but let me grab final touch. Okay. These here are little transfers that used to be available, more readily available, from companies like Letraset. I have had this sheet for 20 years, and this used to be covered in these little stars of varying sizes. It looks like, yeah, I've really used a lot of them on here for various purposes, and anywhere where you don't see any stars, it's because I've already used them. They're rub-ons, okay? And things like these transfers used to be available in positive black or reverse white, and used to get these at different art stores, and illustrators and whatnot used to use that type of thing, Zipatone and all kinds of other things that really aren't available anymore. But I don't know, this might be kind of interesting. I think that one's going to be too gigantic in there. I don't know, maybe interesting. I wish I had kind of a more intermediate size one, maybe something like that. I'm talking about that one right there. Yeah, that would be good. Let's see if I've left room for it in here. Should maybe on the right side. I don't know, for some reason I'm leaning left. Something like that. I don't know, more than one might be kind of interesting. I don't know if you can still get these today. You might still be able to. I did notice that they do have transfers in stores. Which ones are available these days, I don't know. I don't know how popular these even were back in the day, you know. Back when I was using a lot. This would be in the 80s and early 90s. I used them quite a bit. I don't know if companies like Letraset are even making them anymore, though. You might be able to find them around somewhere. Or this type, probably not, I don't know about the star one, but things like alphabet and text you would. Okay, there's the star there, and what you do is you just take your plastic right here after you've rubbed it down. I just kind of burnish it down a little bit more to really affix it to the surface that you've rubbed it on. Okay, and there you have, oops, sorry about that. And there you have it. I don't know, it's kind of fun, you know, this is just a little experiment in pattern and texture and playing around with a little technique and whatnot, so, I don't know, those trees look okay. They're a little bit busy, aren't they? Maybe a little bit less texture on those trees would be good, but there is some variation. Here's the thing I always tell people, though. If you're kind of experimenting with some scene or whatnot, and you're not sure if you should kind of continue on, or have you gone far enough, and should you stop for fear of ruining something, I just say, hey, just keep going, you know? Take it further than maybe what could have been ideal that we'll learn from it in the future, but that's better than kind of always, excuse me, that's better than always holding back and never kind of taking something to its ideal kind of a finish or resolution, whatever. Take it beyond it, that way you'll know kind of the, you know, how far you should take it in the future. Play around. Don't fear your scenes. I'm thinking about this pigment ink again, and where some of these are, you know, I was thinking about all of these as snow actually, but I was thinking maybe I can make a couple of the smaller ones stars and introduce yet another texture. Or I can play around with another texture on here. Okay, maybe... Okay, maybe a couple of these are little glowing little stars in the background. It looks okay. It's all about white on black, right? And kind of giving it an interesting look. I love reversed out text. I love like light lettering on darker background, and things like a stamp board and doing reverse marks are always fun. I guess I really like this because I keep doing more and more. I was just going to have a couple little glowing stars, but this is just too much fun. So, I don't know, I think we're going to have a lot of little glowing little lights in here. It is kind of differentiating snow from star, though, as you can see. That gives me an idea too. Not on this scene, but for a future application, maybe stamping out those trees in white, putting some kind of dots on it, but then making those dots glow a little bit so it looks like they're lit up like lights on a tree, maybe. I think that might be kind of interesting. In theory. Alright, that looks, I don't know, I think that looks kind of nice. Okay, well, too much? Probably. But too much fun, too. So, kind of an interesting look, I would say. I think there's some, there's some potential in some of these marks, some of these techniques, and some of these looks, okay? It's kind of just all in one here, but I don't know, I think I can utilize some of the little, I don't know, looks or techniques kind of gained through this card, thank you card, that I'll apply in the future. I'll figure it out. Kind of makes for a nice little card, I guess. Maybe I'll format this into a folding card, but whatever I do with it, you will have seen it in the beginning of this video. Anyway, light on dark. Fun stuff. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.